who we are for another supplement discussion. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Hyper G.
Hello, Lucky Sixes. How are you?
Very, very good, very excited, and I'm very excited to have you on this actually, Hyper G, because this is
Yes.
your army.
Hi, Army. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm so
man.
excited. I am so excited. I mean, and obviously our short of my Saurian Ancients army came out just last week, didn't it?
Yeah, right.
So I am Saurian Ancients at the minute. I'm
Yeah,
actually playing them as well as loving them. So yeah,
yeah.
this
But
is
but
awesome.
somebody in a rare turn of events, somebody even more Saurian ancients than you,
I know.
has
Is
joined
it
us.
even possible? Is it possible?
Thank you, Mr. thedarkfourth.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you, and
Oh,
thanks for sending us a self-portrait of yourself
yeah.
Yeah,
for the
Mm,
video.
that's my better side.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
stinky
yeah.
goodness.
It's
I
in good
love it.
light. So I imagine it one of those, like the old paintings of yourself.
Painting by numbers.
You've posed for a bit, and they've done
Yeah,
pretty much what you look like, right?
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
But yeah, so no, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and stuff. You had a quite big hand in developing the Ninth Age supplement Saurian Ancients, A New Dawn.
I did, yeah. I'm the lead author on this one, which basically just means that I'm the faction leader, so
That's so
I
cool.
sort of yeah. But I didn't like write the majority of it. As you can see, we had quite a few contributors. Um,
Yeah.
so it was a team effort, and I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, loads of people have been on it. Ed as well, who we spoke to in the last one with Kingdom of Zekatane. How's it been to sort of like again be faction leader, but also work with all these people on presumably one of your armies?
Yes, yeah, Saurians have always been my main army ever since I was 12. Whenever I started out.
Good choice.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love them. Um, yeah, this has been really fun to work on. I mean, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah,
Been working on the fluff for all the different factions for a long time. And it's great to be able to publish this one about the Saurians.
yeah, absolutely. And talking a bit about the book specifically and the content of it. Do you want to do a brief summary of? I know. I mean, we say brief summary because it is 27 pages long, right?
Yes.
Which I
Yes, it is.
think it could be longer, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Some people will definitely want it to be longer. Some people will probably want it to be shorter. um,
Always
but
the way.
I mean, it is intentionally quite long because
Yeah.
the idea with these background supplements is that they do provide a complete overview for the background for a given faction.
Mm.
So even though we will publish more material on for each faction in the sort of uh, like the Gold Lab books that will hopefully be coming, and also in other places.
Mm.
The idea is that you should always be able to come to the supplement and just get everything you need there. Um, it's not going to give you like a unit by unit review, but it will give you like all the general background to the society, the type of uh, thing that this faction is, all the basics that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the examples of that, because we can show some of them, which is good on visuals, but we can talk about all of it, which is better. But an example of that is sort of like, and this is the other enclaves, but this is part of the geography of where they are around the world. So you get to find out a little bit about that, and
Right.
also about how they might connect as well.
Yeah. So that is a bit of a change from legacy background.
Mm,
They are a global faction,
absolutely.
um, and they live in enclaves all around the world. Um, the basic story is that they were once upon a time in the Dawn Age, they were the rulers of the world, but then the empire collapsed and they became hunted and feared by all the other all the other species. So they retreated into sort of hidden enclaves, but they still have quite a lot of power there. And these enclaves are connected, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
In various ways.
Yeah, absolutely, and probably what I got with the book, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but the main place that they are presumed to be is in is it Venetia, which is over here on the bottom left. Varentia, sorry. But it's because I can only see the Entia.
Yeah.
You made a good guess.
Yeah. But actually, there's some right in the middle of Vitia or Vitia and all over the place, really, isn't there?
Yeah, I've always said that Vetia, but I wonder if
I would say
Vitia is actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, Vitia's quite.
Just wrong,
quite
Lucky.
cool,
no, it's likely I'm wrong. We'll go with that. But yeah, and they pop up mainly in hot places, though, right?
Right. They are a reptilian species, so they can't deal with the cold too well. So they are global, but not in the sort of, you're not going to find any in the North Pole. Yeah,
and something you said a second ago as well is actually the one good part about this supplement as a whole is the sort of distinction between the old Saurian Ancients that ruled the world and in the Dawn Age to their sort of mantra, if you like, now of
right.
And I've got another example of it popping up. Vitalism.
Yes.
And this particular entry is propaganda, I would say.
Strong propaganda.
Yeah, but the idea of vitalism and collaboration for it sort of highlights what the Saurians are all about now.
Yes, they have become somewhat fanatical in pursuing the specific philosophy that they have. I don't know if I should explain all the details of Vitalism. You can probably read the article.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We won't spoil too much, but
you need to read it.
Yeah, very much. They've got a cause and they're fighting for it.
Yes, which they always did in the old background as well, but this is a slightly new take on it.
Absolutely. Sort of going on from that, looking at other aspects of the book, you say we've got about what their mantra is, a little bit of introduction as always, the geography where they are and everything, and also does go into. I know you don't do unit by unit, but one of probably the best examples of doing that sort of thing is for me anyway, and one of the bits I most enjoyed was the Magnasauria section, which is a diary. About sort of the dinosaurs, right? The bigger beasts.
Yes, I'd be surprised if this isn't everyone's favourite part of the faction. Honestly, I mean, it's definitely mine. We had a lot of fun writing this piece, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun trying to bring that to life in the rule book as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. A lot of the time reading this, I very much got the impression of don't go in the long grass sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a very personal question on this actually.
What have I told you about this? Leave the guy alone.
No, right, and this is it come from reading it is Titan pods or Titanopods, I should say. I'm very intrigued. That has pulled my intrigue very much so. Is there anything you can explain about that? Or
yes,
not?
Well, we were certainly hoping that readers would be intrigued by that. The Titanopods is the name we're currently using. I mean, it is possible that some specific species names might change after reviews, but the creatures themselves are now canon. In this publication, and the Titanopods are they are very large dinosaurs, which which most people will be familiar with from the dinosaur movies. They have very long necks, very long tails, gigantic bodies, and yeah, I'm excited to give them more of a place in the background.
Yeah, man, very as big as mountains, as some have described.
Yes, walking mountains.
Which is fantastic. So, I mean, as well as sort of going over some of the the units and mentioning them, not unit by unit, it's not that sort of thing, but like mentioning them in the scripts. You do sort of look outside of just the war script and looking at them as a society as a whole, which is really cool. And that's something I liked.
Yes, and we definitely see the Magnasauria as beasts that they use not just for war but also for support, or just as pets maybe.
Yeah, sure.
That they have in their enclaves.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I thought as well that I found from it was the emphasis on architecture. I don't know, did anybody in the team have that or did you have that as a main focus on when you were sort of describing some of these injuries?
I don't know. I mean, it was one focus among many.
Sure.
I think we did want to move away a little bit from just having the the pyramid temples. There's a maybe, but we wanted to introduce certain form of we wanted to create a new visual for the enclaves.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a bit different and hopefully quite striking.
Yeah,
I mean, speaking of different, I mean, like you mentioned the pods reference. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this because I haven't actually seen it on one of the screenshots that Lucky Sixes has picked up on.
We can talk about it.
But,
it's all good.
Well, I guess so because it's available once this video's out. It's available to read. So yeah, am I right in when I read it? And I hope I've not got this completely wrong. Coatls are renamed to something else now.
That's correct. Yes.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yes,
Anorak.
A couple of.
Is it?
Anoraks?
Anurak.
Anurak. I mean, that one's going to be said by so many different people, so many different ways, isn't it? So, yeah.
We did have a very long discussion about this.
I bet. I mean, they are Saurians, aren't they? That is what. Right. They're the main leaders, aren't they? So to change the name, it's going to be much discussed. So yeah.
It is, yeah. I probably shouldn't get into this.
That's all right.
No, sure.
No,
that's why we chose it. But Anura is the sort of Latin name for frogs or whatever.
Awesome.
Nice. That's
cool. Even though
I didn't know that.
in the in our background, they're actually technically reptiles, but the name is going to be Anurak.
Oh, nice. No, cool.
I like it.
And to say, as well as some of the names and hinting at some name changes, not all by any means, but there was also adding in what sort of culture and does to what they are called themselves, and some very interesting names. I definitely need to know how you came up with some of them names.
What do you mean specifically?
Discreetly preserved being one of them.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Was it so immovable 9?
Yes. So the idea is that they give themselves names based on their vitalist principles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some human names are based on like Christian principles or whatever, but
yeah, very much so. Especially in modern times, all the celebrities calling their kids after.
I did want them to sound very weird and like non-human names. And for a while, I thought that they would just have names that were just numbers. But I didn't want to dehumanize them too much.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
as soon as I read that, I was literally thinking, right, I've got to rename all the army names that I've had for the last
yeah,
few years to names that match this, and yeah, it just
Yeah,
gets the imagination going.
it was
yeah. I hope it will get that
it was
get the imagination going.
certainly very intriguing, and it was very refreshing as well to have something so different as a name is. And you picked up on it as you were going as well. I've got some pictures here, sort of showing. I guess how much do you sort of speak to the art team and stuff about the look and the idea of the army when you're doing the fluff?
So when we come to the full lab gold book, we will do a whole art review where we'll provide guidelines to the artists. We actually haven't done that yet for the Saurians because
cool.
there isn't any art in the supplement.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to take artists' time away from the bigger books.
Sure. Who are working on Dread Elves at the minute, aren't they? I think.
That's right. Yeah. So these images are happened a little while ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I love them very much, but but they're not yet the product of a standard review.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is what as you say, one thing looking back on all the art that we've had for Saurians is quite cool looking, and I'm very intrigued when that comes out as to how it sort of meshes together. Very cool, very cool. But yeah, I believe as well, I should mention that the ones that look like this are done by, and I'm sorry if I completely butcher your name, Rafis Kuzin. Dedicated to that, so that's well done.
There you go. Yeah.
If that's you, put a comment and tell me how much I've butchered your name. But yeah, so we did what we thought as well. That's a bit of an overview of the book as well. It's got about technology and as you say about the mantra of it and everything. So it's quite in depth and quite a lot of stuff about the Saurians as a whole. So I'm just trying to get my overlay thing going and talk at the same time. That's not good. But there we go. But yeah, so from your point of view, working on it and sort of doing all the background with your team, how did you, I guess, and your team really, find writing it in, not only having the ideas and everything, but writing it in the Ninth Age style of narrative?
Yeah. So I mean, this isn't the first sort of publication I've worked on. We are like quite used to it at this point, but I think we're always trying to improve what we do. But I personally really like writing in the Ninth Age style. We write everything from an in-world perspective.
Yeah.
And for me, because it allows you to change things up a lot, so you can write for quite different characters, quite different contexts. You can use very different voices and tones of writing, which always keeps it fresh for me.
Sure.
It also lets you use sort of little callbacks or connections between articles.
Sure.
So I think I wrote 2 or 3 of the articles in this one, and there's some little subtle references between like the character. Like one of them's written by a guy from Volskia, and then the next one is written by his wife.
Yeah.
No, I did like that.
You read the names.
Yeah. Definitely. That's good.
So like things like that, and we've also got a piece by Samuel Le Pepin, who is like one of our little favorites. Crops a lot of publication. So stuff like that. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think all the authors came up with some really great ideas.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed generally, and this is where you can absolutely slam me down for even mentioning it, because obviously as a Saurian player, just I read this in one sitting. I was enjoying it so much I couldn't put it down. It was like, the best novel I've read ever, because I just love Saurians so much. But
Thank you.
I when we got to the jungle gorillas section, I was a little bit like, oh, I want more. I want more about the ramphrodons and the pterodons and everything. And there wasn't as
Yes.
much of a mention of those. I didn't know if there was any purpose to that or any thoughts on that in particular.
Um, no, it wasn't an intentional. It wasn't an intentional omission. It
Mm.
was. I think it's a combination of firstly possible the flyers and the hunters are maybe not so central to the general society of the
Yeah,
Saurians.
yeah, that makes sense.
So while they are very important in the army, they were less important for this kind of view.
Yeah,
And also, I think um, so the classic Saurian story is when some idiot adventurers
hmm,
from Better come to the jungle. They're trying to get treasure,
yeah,
and of course they all get killed one by one
absolutely, as they
by
should.
the, the creatures of the jungle. So we do have that story in here, but we wanted to not. I didn't want to do it on that
Yeah, yeah.
possibly cliche.
No, yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so
And it was
as
definitely
great a story as
yeah, it was definitely like a unique take on that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. That was quite good. That's good. It was a
Mm.
good mixture of sort of like focus on the Saurians and wanting to do that, but also a bit of humour
Yeah,
in there and in
absolutely.
between the lines as well. It was quite good.
I'd love to hear
yeah.
more in the comments about how other people read this through, because as a Saurian player, I was like cheering for the Saurians throughout the story. I was like, yeah, kill them off one by one. And obviously, other
Yeah,
people reading it might be a bit more like, oh no, there's only three of them left or whatever. But
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see comments from people about what they thought about it as it goes on as well.
Yeah,
Cool.
doing the actual book itself, and I guess having so many of you there, was there a single inspiration behind the book, and did you all share that, or is it just a case of getting people that want to write it and collaborate in everyone's ideas?
So the um, the writing the book itself is more a case of um, getting down into a publishable format the background that we had already created. So for all of our factions now, we have background in place,
Mm.
but we haven't yet published it in great detail for all of them. Um, so in terms of inspiration for the background as a whole, that was something we worked on a number of years ago, and there was what were inspirations? I think mainly uh, we wanted to create something that was different to Legacy, but also recreated the same sense of this being like a really alien, non-human society,
Mm.
Yeah.
um, but quite fanatical about what they care about. Um, and so I did do some research, and that there are people um, who have like explored and written about a philosophy very similar to vitalism, which is based primarily on the natural force of entropy.
Yeah.
Um, and people have have written that have suggested that this should be like the source of morality, um, should be this sort of physical like thermodynamic force, which I found quite a striking and
Yeah.
again kind of alien feeling idea. It's not like a mainstream one, obviously, but that was something that I was inspired by. But we also wanted to so in Legacy there's a very Mesoamerican, like Mayan, Aztec inspiration. We didn't want to reproduce that, but we did want to keep it related to local indigenous cultures. So each enclave is often mediated by the local human population, because humans and Saurians can't communicate. Like the names that we have for the Saurians are often taken from the local humans, and the main source of inspiration for that ended up being the Maori people of New Zealand. Partly because, mainly because our sort of biggest and most important enclave is an island that's positioned out in the sort of South Pacific analog region.
Well, that's really cool.
And so we have some inspiration from Maori culture in it, which readers will probably pick up on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you say as well, you said that obviously you come up with this a little while ago. How long does it take to complete this amount of fluff and story-based background?
Well, it's two different things. Doing the world building and creating the background is one project, and then putting it together for a publication is a second project. So the publication we started basically at the same time that the Saurian lab was announced, which I think was March.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess that took from start to finish like 7 months. That's a lot of different. There's the writing time, also the editing time. People getting into long debates about little details.
I bet.
Yeah.
As you'd expect. And then working with layout to get it into a document can take some time. So that's how long it took in this case. In other cases, it'll take even longer. But does that answer your question?
Absolutely. A long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, fair play. And as well as it taking a long time, you get that it's from reading it. You definitely get that a lot of effort and collaboration and work, and to get those details right. It comes across in the reading as well. So
it's very carefully written.
Well done to you and your team for that.
Thank you.
For sure. And speaking, obviously you are a Saurian guy, and you've obviously play with the army, I presume.
I do, yeah.
What are you looking forward to most about the new book coming? That this is obviously going to support and supplement quite nicely.
Yeah, so as the faction leader on the background, I am actually on the task team.
Jealous.
So I have been privy to some of what's going on there, and
so you're who I need to bribe.
Yeah. It's going to be a really cool book.
Awesome.
I think one thing is that even though a lot of the background has changed, a lot of, like jungle gorillas is a good example. It's not a major part in the background necessarily, but it will be in the book, much as it has been in the past. You're still going to have your blowpipes and your poison javelins. But we are going to be introducing new units. I can't say for sure what they are yet.
Oh, go on, make a mistake. We'll edit it out. We promise.
We promise.
Well, if I if I knew for sure, then I might do. But
sure.
but because it's still sort of it's still in the sort of relatively early stages.
Yeah, fair enough.
We're still deciding exactly what ideas are going to be included. But yes, I will say that there are going to be dinosaurs.
Yeah, baby.
You can
Do
get
you remember
excited for
Lucky
dinosaurs.
Sixes years and years and years ago when you first started playing tabletop gaming? You sort of semi-designed a crocodon. Do you remember that?
The crocodon, yeah. We need to get that involved.
I
Get
love
it in. That's our vote, isn't it?
He's probably the biggest of the Titanopods.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's in there now.
The crocodon. Okay,
Exclusive.
I'll write it down.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down. I'm going to bring it to Vitalism.
Yeah. I don't know how it's pronounced. You can pronounce that every I think it's pronounced Anurak, right? But yeah, no, absolutely. So new things to come. Excited about the new book. Fantastic. And I say thanks ever so much for coming on and talking about it. It's been really, really good to have like your insight, especially as faction leader and someone that's obviously clearly passionate about it and clearly put a lot of work in with a good team from that. And thank you very much for your time. Very much for talking about it. And you've got us excited as well.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much for having me.
No, not at all. He didn't need much convincing, but
just the opening page really. So
he saw the badge.
Yep.
For people that are interested in doing some similar stuff that you do and sort of wanting to get involved that little bit more. So if you're just on the sidelines and you read this and you go, you know what, I've got some great ideas. Is there anyone that they can go to and talk to about getting involved themselves?
So the best way to do that is to just go to the main website, the sort of main page, but there's a tab at the top that's I think it's called Join the Team, and it has a place where you can click to apply to different teams. I think the background team is currently, it says like we're not actively seeking new members, but there is still a button to apply, and we would be interested to hear from people.
Yeah.
We're pretty well equipped at the moment, but if the right person comes along, we'd be very happy to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're watching this and you think you want to get involved, but you're not necessarily a writer, you might be an artist, for example. That's the same page to do it. And
yes, artists, we always need more of.
Yeah.
So please, do apply.
If only I had any skills in that department.
No, because we need more pictures like this.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. But again, thank you ever so much for all your time. We really appreciate you hanging out and chatting about the book. And getting us and everyone hyped up for what it all the Saurian stuff.
Yeah, great. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Let's have some comments about the exciting stuff that's coming, and we will see you for our next battle report next week.
Absolutely, quite a lot. Yeah, no, very much so. And make sure you do give this a read. It's fantastic. Both of us read it through in one sitting, and it's so really worth checking out that and the Kingdom of Extane and all the ones to come in the future. If it goes along this, then it's certainly a good start, and more like this to come. So yeah, thanks again, Darkfourth.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hyper-G.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you very much for watching. See you next time.
Cheerio.
See you later.